Hi, my name is Tavian Stewart. I'm from Cumberland House, Saskatchewan, and I'm a student at Charlevoix Community School, also known as CCS. And today I'm presenting my visual arts project on the history of Pinebluff, where my grandmother was born and raised. And I'm presenting this to Heritage Saskatchewan. It's who it's for. And my artist that painted this was Kimwin Pikikut. History of the Homeland Memories from my Grand Fleur Stewart. I've always heard my Grand Fleur Stewart talking about this one place called Pine Bluff. My gran is very close to my heart, and I call her mom because she raised me since I was a newborn baby. She is my home, my safe place. She gives me strength and wisdom. I have the utmost respect for her because she loves sharing the story and history of our homeland. She is my library, and she is one of the last embodiments of Pine Bluff, Saskatchewan. One day when I was around the age of 6, I asked her, "Can you tell me about home?" She replied, "We are home, what are you talking about, my boy?" But I said, "No, Pine Bluff is home." I asked her to tell me the stories about the trapline life my family used to have. She said, "My son, I'll tell you everything I can remember from when I was small. After you go split wood, this will be your offering in exchange for my stories." So I got dressed and cut wood for her. Went back inside, moose meat was cooking on the frying pan, and she just finished making oven-baked bannock. In our Swampy Cree language, she said, "Astam, ope, mitsutan, wanastasok, michimapoy, usita," which translates to "Come and sit down, let's eat, set up the table for us, and make some tea for me." I sat down and listened to her stories, her memory of the homeland, as far back as she can remember. Back in the day, most families had to take their kids out of school and go check their trap lines. She told me that she was supposed to be in elementary school. Her family had to leave during the months of February and March to go trapping for furs, muskrat, beaver, lynx furs. They were all good sources for trading. During spring breakup, the ice would still be flowing when they would take a small 9-horsepower boat all the way upriver. Setting up camp was a lot of work. They would make a fire, cook, and clean, while she would help in the kitchen. As a 4-year-old, she wanted to go help with wood splitting, but she was still too small. Her older brothers would do it. Together, they would spend 2 to 3 weeks out on the trapline, depending on how successful their trapping trip was. When they made it back home to Pine Bluff, they would cook and invite people over to eat. They were always happy to share food, even if they did not have much. Everyone shared moose meat, fresh bannock, duck, geese, and fish. No one would go hungry. Sharing was an important value, making sure everyone survived. In middle school, my gran started playing sports. She was a real deadly athlete. Baseball was her main sport, and she was a solid batter and could run like the wind. Pitching the ball came natural to her. She would throw the ball in such a specific way depending on who the batter was, and she could read other players, knowing which way they would swing. I wish I could have seen her toss up the ball, up and down, left and right, and be calling out, 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out. Once it was her turn to bat, she would hit the ball so hard and fast that it would go straight to the pitcher. Every pitcher would duck and roll as she was at bat. One time, there was a pitcher on the other team who tried to catch the ball when she was at bat, and the ball was so fast it broke the pitcher's glove. Everybody knew that Flora had the Pine Bluff power in her arms. The older she got, the stronger she became, and on the soccer field, she was quick. She would steal the ball and pass it to an offensive player, then she would run up the field herself, and the player she passed the ball to would score the goals. As a young girl, my gran played sports all year round. She kept in tip-top shape. In the wintertime, her friends and family would have snowshoe races on the dog sled trails, and they would also ice skate down on the river. The adults shoveled, packed down the snow, and dumped water on it so they could have a smooth layer of ice to play hockey on. Back then, there was no such thing as Facebook, Snapchat, or online games. Kids went outside to play and to stay in shape all year round. Kids were never bored at home because they were always busy working, cleaning, or playing outside. My gran told me that sometimes kids would go and get money to go buy treats from this one white store they had in Pine Bluff. The store had dry goods and a bit of clothing, snare wire, and she only had to pay 5 cents for a bag of popcorn and 25 cents for a bottle of Sprite. At the age of 14 years old, my gran's world dramatically changed. The school burned down in Pine Bluff, and after it was gone, the Canadian government sent an Indian agent to take children into residential schools that were very far away. My gran and her older siblings all got taken away from their homes by the Indian agent. My gran's first memory of this sad event was that she was separated from everyone, and she never got to see any of her siblings. The Indian agent sent them to all different residential schools throughout Saskatchewan. She was so lonely at night for her family. She truly never knew when she was going to see them again. She told me about her teenage years in the residence. One night, when her and her friends were going to get a pop out of the pop machine after supper, they saw these ghostly figures moving around in the darkness of a long, empty hallway. She told me that they were the ghosts of the many kids who passed away there. My gran left residential school at the age of 16. When she was traveling back home to Cumberland by plane, she landed in Carrot River, Saskatchewan. This is the place where she tried pizza for the first time in her life. She remembered seeing a picture of pizza in an Archie comic at the residence, so tasting it for the first time in her life was shocking. Arriving on the island of Cumberland House was another big shock because she could no longer return to the homeland of Pine Bluff, as her and her family were forced to move inland to Cumberland House. On an island, her family settled on the Cumberland House Cree Nation Reserve in a quiet area near the Taring River and close to the burial grounds of our people. To keep connected to Pine Bluff, my gran takes me and our family by boat to travel up the northern Saskatchewan River to visit our homeland. As I get off the boat and walk towards the path of Pine Bluff, I can see that most of the houses were burnt down, and the only building left standing is my ancestors' home. As it stands, a very powerful memory, a foundation sits there, a symbol of my family's roots. It may look like just a campsite to others, but to me and my gran, it will forever be our homeland. Thanks for listening to my story. This is my visual arts project. And I would like to thank my mom, my gran, Flora Stewart, for all the history and knowledge that she taught me in order for me to share her story. I would like to also thank my artist, Kim Won Pikakut, for making this beautiful art project. She also has ties to Pine Bluff. And yeah,